This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so this is the Yaskawa Monday morning training for December 13th, 2021, and we are going to talk about strategies for the times, and specifically about sales strategies for selling the Yaskawa VFD product. I believe that these are perfect times for those of us in the sales field, and the opportunities for change right now are huge. So taking advantage of them certainly is going to require hard work and diligence and all the other things that we have to do every day, but with discretion. And data is required in order to use proper discretion. So I'm going to try to give you some data today on how to make the correct decisions when you're in potentially difficult situations. So, strategies for the times. At present, the factory conditions that we are facing, pretty much everybody is facing, and while I have dealt with a few irate, aggressive customers who are demanding compensation for the fact that we can't deliver and trying to put their situation onto our back in terms of responsibility, for the most part, people realize that these times are different, they're difficult, and everybody's just trying to get through them the best way that they can. So our bookings are up through the roof. There's a couple of indications that come to me from that. Yaskawa is gaining market share in this market, no doubt about that. I believe that initially the $100 million, the legendary $100 million of finished goods inventory that we held in our Chicago facility had a lot to do with that. What's also the case is that in general throughout my entire career, if you can get Yaskawa into a customer, in most cases you're going to stay in that customer. It's getting us into the customer that's always been the challenge. And the biggest challenge, of course, has come in trying to attack the Allen Bradley entrenched market share, which is 26% of the market. Therefore, they're the largest market shareholder. But the evidence now is that we are being more and more successful in taking this market share. Now, the question is it permanent or is it temporary? Bookings are up, our shipments are down like everybody else, and initially in this crisis we're in a much better position, but our finished goods inventory is pretty much depleted, and it's down to what we can manufacture and ship out the door. We have a lot of in-process inventory right now, half-built drawers waiting on parts. A lot of disorganization in our manufacturing procedure. We are normally an extremely efficient operation. Now, I've said this many times, this is the year of running in circles. Every time a container hits the dock, people run to it like it's Christmas. They open up the door, they haul everything out, and they can ship a whole bunch of stuff that's been waiting around. Normally, those things don't take up space, they just flow. Our flow is broken. Our manufacturing costs have increased for a variety of reasons. Parts availability causing disruption, as I've said before, increase in parts costs, inability to get access to the labor pools that we have had in the past at the pricing and costing that we have had in the past. The shipping costs. As of the end of August, we were millions and millions of dollars above budget on shipping costs. And that's the cost that we have to ship stuff into our factory. It's not the cost of shipping the product to our customer base. The shipping logjam, well, I just had the very nice opportunity to go down the coast to Dana Point, and I took the coast route along the beach and saw all of the shipping container ships firsthand. This crisis is not over. The logjam is not abating and is not being solved at the moment. Best estimates from the brains at Yaskawa is that this situation is at least 9 months out. So he who has inventory is king. And I don't know that at any time in my career that this statement has been more appropriate. I want to address the issue of the squeaky wheel. You know, that person who takes an aggressive, irate stance with us and through that attempts to get us to do what we won't do for others. Because we can't do everything for everybody right now by definition. And I think everybody has their own style of dealing with this squeaky wheel situation. I call it that based on the old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. But my personal opinion, and this is just my personal opinion, is that I am giving the grease to the best behaved clients, not the ones that think that they can bully me around. And that may run counter to natural reaction, but I think it is more fair. On taking new business, the factories basically said, we don't want any new business. And I can understand why they say that. But as I said earlier in the presentation, these are unprecedented times, and therefore there are unprecedented opportunities. As salespeople, we want disruption in the marketplace. We are disruptors. Our job is to disrupt. Somebody's doing our job for us right now. We have to go out and take advantage of these times. And as a result, we have an open firing field to go out and do what we want, but we have to do it intelligently. So there's a balance between loyal customers and new potentials. And my opinion is to favor the loyal customers. Take care of the people that have been loyal to Yaskawa. We are not signing up new distribution at this point. We are not entertaining distribution coming to us and wanting to buy large quantities of drives, as tempting as that may be, because our first loyalty is to our existing channel. And we understand the situation intimately, and we're not going to wholesale those relationships for some temporary opportunities. However, we do want to look past the channel section of our market and take advantage of the opportunities to convert, and I'm going to say emphasize end users at this point, because the OEMs, yes, we want to look at some, but they're problematic, and we'll talk in more detail about that. There are opportunities for closer contact with customers that will benefit all of us. This is not the time to sit back and get on your computer and try to rule the world through the internet. This is the time to get into the field, to press personal contacts, because everybody else is taking the former route. And what better opportunity than to take advantage of the situation? I take every personal sales call opportunity I can get, just to get in there and look around and see what the possibilities are, but more importantly, to press development of relationships. prices are going up. And I want to make a comment about pricing policies in the United States. In my experience, the big names in the U.S. industrial control market have had the habit of increasing prices annually. Sometimes it's only a couple of percent. But I think that becomes almost a habit because the sales department gets this boost on next year's sales goals just because of the price increase. And as long as the price increase is reasonably moderate and the customer base tolerates it, that's a free 3-4% jump on your goal, starting ahead of the starting line, so to speak. Yaskawa's historical policy, as long as I've been with them, and I've been with them since the late 80s, is that we've never had a price increase. As I've said in the past, Yaskawa follows the rules of faster, faster, smaller, smaller, cheaper, cheaper. And those are the rules that play in the semiconductor and electronic, the modern electronics markets, not in the traditional industrial control markets of the United States where regular price increases are relatively tolerated. So we have never had a price increase. So you can imagine the consternation that comes from our management when we have no choice. Our present cost increase is a temporary surcharge, 7% on your normal cost. And Yaskawa has every intention of rolling that back. We talk about it every month. We do not want to sully our record of not increasing prices in this marketplace. So that's a big difference between us and the rest of the market. For the most part, have come out with what I'm being told are permanent price increases. This is always a question in hard times, price gouging versus reasonable opportunity costing. And again, we want to err on the side of being fair because we have a long-term view of things. It's not the time to go out and rip people off because they'll always remember it. But we also have to maintain the value equation. The fact is that our inventory is worth more. Your inventory in the channel is worth more because you stepped out and you had the courage to invest in it in very uncertain times. And as a result, you deserve a return on taking that risk. That's fair play in the marketplace. Right now, if you have inventory, you're a rope salesman in a quicksand party. And you need to use proper discretion and also take appropriate advantage of your position. The fact is that inventory is king. In handling new customer inquiries, I'm going to separate this conversation into end user versus OEM. And again, bear in mind that once you're in, we tend to stay in. Once people see what Yaskawa is versus the product that they may have chosen versus based on brand loyalty, ignorance of the fact that some of these brands are not even making their own drives, but they're private labeling them, perhaps cost. Once we get in, I very rarely lose a customer. And that applies over my entire career with Yaskawa. So it is always good to get a unit in, and therefore I would focus on end users. You're not going to be depleting your inventory significantly in taking on some new customers, but you are building up, you're planting seeds that you can harvest when we get the supply chain fixed and you have drives to sell again on a regular basis the way we had 2-3 years ago. Yaskawa, of course, will, when they're able to, restock the larder, and our finished goods inventory will go up. And we will support you again in the way that we've always supported you. Right now, try to plant those seeds. And at the end user base, I think without question, when you have an opportunity, you want to make a conversion. At the OEM level, it's it's a judgment call. And we can try to help you with that, but ultimately, you know your customer best. So differentiating from how to differentiate sincere opportunities from opportunistic opportunities. And I would say that at the AB OEMs around town, the packaging guys that are locked to the PLC and therefore locked to everything ABB can leverage in, which is a great tactic, by the way. It's why they have the #1 market share. I'm not speaking negatively about that at all. I'm envious of it. But those OEMs are going to tend to be in trouble right now because Allen Bradley has depended upon a private label scheme for years on all of their VFDs at one point, but right now specifically on the 40 horse and below stuff. And that's the Delta. And Delta's having horrendous issues servicing the United States. And I think it's probably because they're servicing their Chinese customers first. Siemens, I view the same way as I view Allen Bradley. They're just not as big a presence in the United States. And therefore, I would tend to discount opportunities coming from that direction. But evaluate each one individually. And that means, going back to what I said before, get in front of the customer, take the opportunity, go visit, sit down in front of them. The European second-tier brands, I would take out whenever I could, because these VFDs are not great. They've always had availability issues in the United States and support issues. Some of the drives are pretty good, especially in the integrated systems arena. KED comes to mind with their special software products that rival our special software products. But for the most part, they have pretty bad availability issues right now, and I would tend to look at those as more sincere opportunities for a long-term conversion. These are the ones that I put attack in parentheses because people tell me in these presentations I have to be more politically correct in what I say, so always convert. But what I really mean is attack. And I am always about attacking ABB, the Japanese brands, Danfoss Vacon, and Delta, and any other Asian brands that I can find, because these tend to be permanent conversions. If I win, I can stay in. When you look at converting a drive and you have a shortage and you can't find the model that you want, what do? Well, you can just give up and say, sorry, it's out of stock. And for the most part, that's what most of the people in our marketplace are going to do. Therefore, it creates an opportunity for those of us that are not willing to settle for, oh, sorry, and are willing to go the extra distance. And so I want to give you some tools to go the extra distance if it's possible. It's not always possible, but it's never possible unless you investigate the opportunity. So first, don't hesitate to call us. If you have an opportunity, even if it's for a drive, get on a cell phone, call me, I'll answer and I'll talk to you. So will everybody else at Western Automation. We will help you convert this product. And if we can't find a product for you, we'll help you convert it to something else so you can win the opportunity. That's important. For open loop induction motor opportunities, pretty much all of our drives can be converted to other models. There really is no particular issue in 80% of the applications. Therefore, the GA500 to V1000 to GA800 to P1000 to A1000, if I can find a drive in those model lines, I can do the application in 80% of the cases. In other words, 80% interchange. What's really cool about it is that the program is going to be the same. Yeah, there'll be some size differences. Pretty much the terminal locations are going to be the same labels, if not slightly different in location on the drive. And if it's a serial interface opportunity, the Modbus addressing on all these products is the same. They're basically the same drive for 80% of the applications. Think about that. Now, this is in velocity mode applications. Sizing down, typically not a great idea, but to stay with what I said earlier about investigating the opportunity, take a look at it, because there are cases when you can size down. Typically they come at end users, and they come when you're replacing a drive that was originally oversized or that the machine at this point is no longer being used at capacity. I just did one the other day. It was a 200 horsepower. We put 150 horsepower on it because we were able to get the data on the motor amp draw when the machine was at capacity. Customer had bought the machine from a big old steel plant back east and wasn't using it at capacity, and we were able to get him out of trouble. Sizing up. In most cases, in velocity mode, you can do this. You can put a 100 horsepower drive on a 10 horsepower motor. Now, economics will interfere on that one, but from an application standpoint, you're typically safe if it's a velocity control application to size up. If it's a torque control application, you're depending upon the current data coming back through the CTs on the output of the drive, and those CTs have a certain resolution, and if you double the size of the drive, you reduce the resolution to 1/2. At that point, you're not going to be in a great position in terms of control on the current regulator, which is the torque regulator, because you're only feeding it half resolution data. This is true in torque control applications, winder on winder, and it's true for most of the permanent magnet applications that we are running. We're very sensitive to good current data in those applications. Therefore, I would tend to avoid it. But again, refer back to the main rule, which is call Western Automation and talk to us about it. That is a typo. I hate typos. All Yaskawa VFDs speak Modbus RTU on an RS-485 connection. Every one of our Ethernet and other serial protocol capabilities come through translator cards, which, and I've said this before, we sell at way too high a price, in my opinion. Our translator cards are on average $200 to $300. In my opinion, they should be $50. But you have to understand this, because if you run into communication card issues, you're basically sacrificing a $5,000 to $6,000 sale for a $300 to $400 card. This means that third-party protocol converters are an option. And there are a bunch of them out there. Search protocol converter Modbus RTU. We will help you with the conversion. I'm going to put up the results of my search. Slow internet today. Anybus. Here's their ability to convert from one to another. It doesn't work so well. Oh, I've got to select one. So I want to go Modbus RTU slave, because that's what a drive is on a Modbus network. We're not the master. I don't understand why that thing won't work. Maybe I didn't click go right. Oh, there you go. Update. So now I can convert to any of these protocols. If I go to Moxa. Modbus RTU to Modbus TCP conversion in 60 seconds. Similar for their other converters. Control Logic. Modbus RTU to TCP IP protocol conversion. This will give you a little bit of costing associated with these. They tend to run around 5-something list. So whatever multiplier you can get in that situation. They also tend to run down to as low as, this is again retail pricing, but the ICP DOS stuff, ICP DOS tends to be the low cost leader. So not too far off of what we're charging for our protocol converters, and as a result you can save the sale, because right now there are some COM cards that we cannot get for love or money. I've gone through all the labs, everybody's demos, stolen everyone I could find, and we're out. It's the chip shortage thing, and there's not much I can do about it for you. So when you call me up and say, oh God, I gotta get that COM card, I just need one, I'll probably try to help you do a converter. And that's not to say that these people aren't having availability issues either, but I just showed you 5 of 40 companies in this marketplace. I'm pretty sure we can find one and save your VFD sale. At least there's a good enough possibility of that we should try. So what to do when your choice is not available and you have a closed loop opportunity? Well, those are the 3 drives that can interchange in terms of closed loop control. Again, velocity. If it's torque, probably not. We would at least need to take a look at it. If it's size for size, yeah, pretty good chance. So if I've got a 200 horsepower A1000 and I need a replacement for it, I can replace it with a GA800 pretty easily. And with a U1000, but unfortunately U1000 is going to be twice the price. I will say that in the higher horsepower range, we do have pretty good spot availability. I was able to find a 600 horsepower. I was able to find 3 alternatives for a 600 horsepower replacement. Somebody blew a 600 horsepower squirty drive to smithereens on an extruder for plastic, and it was one of 3 main lines in the plant, so the plant was down to 2/3 capacity. Their bookings are up. They didn't want that, and we were able to quote a drive from inventory. So unique opportunity in a plant that has been strictly not Yaskawa. We do not have a drive in this plant, and they probably have 200 drives in that plant. Not to mention the DC stuff that they haven't converted yet. By the way, I'm going to put DC up on the list of things we should always chase at in this particular market in these strange times, because a DC to AC conversion is an important watershed for the end user, and the brand that they check the box on to replace their DC drive tends to be the brand of choice moving forward. So again, it's one of those plant a seed now, reap the benefits for the next 4, 5, 10 years. Special software. In this case, when you have a drive with Yaskawa special software, whether it's spindle orient, high frequency, torque control, motion control, indexing, commercial laundry machines, you're just not in a good place if you can't get that drive, because we can't convert you to another product. The conversions from the 1000 series to the GA series are ongoing now, but what has happened is, because we haven't finished those conversions, we've basically taken any A1000 and V1000 inventory and production that we have and dedicated it to servicing the clients that require A1000 with special software, or V1000 with special software. These are separate product lines. They're basically the same drive with a dash 3-digit suffix that designates the specific special software on that drive that's embedded at the factory. 1000 series availability now is just woeful. It's much worse than the GA series because of chip shortages and control board shortages that are particularly hit those products hard. So we're in a tough spot, and we're reserving everything we can for specific OEMs that have no choice. We're their only life raft. And you just need to be aware of that situation. Talk to us again, because in some cases we have a workaround. If you've been attending this class and monitoring the DriveWorks EZ presentations, you can see that we have the ability to recreate these special firmwares or softwares, in some cases in DriveWorks EZ. And for the most exigent situations, we will try to do that. If not, putting a small PLC next to the drive might get you out of trouble. And these are things we need to investigate when the customer is in a really, really difficult spot. So, this is the situation that we're facing. What I hope that I've gotten across in this presentation is the fact that not only are these unprecedented opportunities for conversion of customers, we have very good options. I believe that our options as Yaskawa sales force are as good or in most cases better than the competition, and that's one of the reasons why our market share is going right now. The fact is that we're getting to the point where we can't ship any better than anybody else, but we're still, I think, doing a better job in the sales interface. I want that to continue. I want our channel to take advantage and get to the field and get face-to-face with the clients, because that's where we can take advantage of these opportunities and of these strategies that I've talked about for the last 40 minutes. I'm hopeful that this is useful. I will send this presentation out to everybody via email as soon as we're done with this presentation. And with that, I'm actually going to end the class early today, because that's really all I have to talk about before the holidays. Hopefully we got some new ideas here and we can go out and win some new business. And with that, I'm going to say it's 20 minutes till 8 o'clock, so you got 20 minutes for coffee and breakfast before we have to go to work. And Merry Christmas and a happy holiday to everybody.
Thanks, Pierce. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. Take care.
We'll see you in the new year.